Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I am your host, Al Richards, and we are here with our special guest, Rachael Pioltini. Did I say it right, the last name?
So close.
Oh, this is Pioltini.
Yes.
Pioltini. Awesome. Love it, love it. And today's topic is going to be how growing up in a dysfunctional home can lead to addiction. We are also joined today by the lovely Tiffany Nacarado. So Tiffany, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And I love Rachael.
Tiffany, as soon as she found out we had Rachael on the show, she's like, Al, can I come in and be the guest host? We're like, absolutely.
Yep. I love this girl.
It's a pleasure having you here with us.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So Rachael, oh my gosh, this is our second attempt because I'm the one that screwed up the first attempt of having you on the show. I don't know, man. I've just been getting so confused lately with everything that's going on. And so thank you for rescheduling and thank you for your patience. And you've just gone through a huge move from Utah to New York.
Yeah.
And gosh, we're just going to let you take over the show. Just share a little bit more about yourself and what's going on with life and where things have gone for you. Because like you said in your bio, you grew up in a dysfunctional home and then you've gone through some addiction. So just take it away and we'll feed off of you.
Awesome. Well, I'm super happy to be here. Whenever there's time, I think we've all kind of learned. I thought I mastered, everybody, Zoom meetings and the time changes. But I didn't because we obviously got the last one wrong. So today when Tiffany messaged me, this is just funny. She's like, I get to see you. And I'm like, shit, I screwed it up. I'm not cursing anymore. I thought it was at 10:30 and it was like 12:30 here, 20 here. And it's crazy. So I'm adjusting one to a time change because my whole life is in Utah. And so I'm a person in long-term recovery. I absolutely love recovery. I'm 42 years old. I have to own my age now because I feel like I'm just this old woman in midlife crisis. And it's like, no, I'm not really. I'm 42. I'm on a big milestone this year. I'm receiving my 5 years of clean and sober.
Congratulations. Yes.
Thank you. I try not to use clean and sober, but sometimes I do depending on where we are. But for me, I work a program of abstinence and dysfunctional home is really what I grew up in. And it's really cool because right now we're in this little tiny beach house with where my dysfunctional family came from. Oh. And you don't even know. My dad just hit 33 years on the 4th. So that's a big day for our family. And so it's kind of nice. But for me to finally have 5 years, which to me, I mean, of course, any day, any amount of time you get is real recovery, but to hit such a huge milestone of 5 years where that just didn't exist in my world. Yeah. 5 years of not drinking, 5 years of no meth, 5 years of no Adderall, 5 years of no cigarettes, it just didn't, I didn't grow up like that. I didn't start drinking until about 13, 14 and just your typical teenage stuff. But as I hit my 20s, balls to the walls, sorry. And I have to be careful because I do have a very New York trucker sailor mouth. And I'm working really hard on not using that language anymore. So I'm going to probably apologize to myself if I curse, and it's probably not good for the air anyway.
No worries.
But I love recovery. And my life has gone from homeless, abandoning my children, my family, just typical families being hurt and sad, and to moving across the country on a total leap of faith that God was going to take me where I needed to go and was going to provide for me and my kids. But I did it with my family. None of us know what we're doing. And Rachael, 8 years ago, I wasn't even invited to come to this house. If I was, everybody was like, "Oh, don't bring Rachael over. Oh, is Rachael coming?" And now it's like the whole family's here looking for me to say, "You look really good." And that's beautiful. My life wasn't like that.
I bet it is. I mean, that had to be, I don't know, what's the right word for, I guess, lonely, or I just can't imagine the feeling that knowing that people didn't want you around them. I mean, didn't that tear you up inside?
Yeah, it did. It made me not want to come around even more.
Yeah.
And I felt super judged. And like, we come from a really wealthy background, and who wants their homeless tweaker Rachael here? Like very educated, and everybody makes at least 150,000 to 200,000 a year. And I'm penny pinching to, living out of a backpack. And I'm from New York. So I lived my early 20s homeless with a backpack here. And so family is no stranger to me having a problem.
Wow.
The way I do drugs, once I got into cocaine and started really doing drugs, I became homeless right away. And every single time I do drugs, I become homeless. It just doesn't matter like that. I forget to come home and I forget my priorities, or, I have that little thing in my brain that's just like, let's just do one more. One more. 4 days later, just one more, and then I'm going to go home. Just one more, and I'm going to go to work. Okay, I'm not going to work today. I'll call out just one more day. Okay, just one more. And it's total chaos everywhere I go. And nobody wants that. I don't.
Yeah.
Today, I don't. I don't want it anywhere.
I was going to say, Rachael, just because we've known each other for so long, and I know family's huge to you, and you were always missing them out there. So when you say, like, I totally can remember you saying, I just one more, or I'll go back to work tomorrow, or I'll go to my home kids tomorrow. But the shame factor held you out from going. So I remember you being, I can't show up like this. I don't have shoes on today, or I don't have the right attire, or, you know what I mean? Or I remember it was like, don't look right to go home to the family, right? I'm living on this backpack, or my car just got stolen or something like that. And so your family image was huge. Like you wanted to live up to that. And do you want to talk a little bit on that piece, like how that shame kept you in that darkness?
Yeah, I mean, and that is what kept me sick. Like my mom got used to a part where this was when Rachael showed up. I called for about a week straight saying, I'm going to come see the girls because I have 2 little girls tonight. And I would go to the house and then I would take a shower, but then they were going to talk to me and they were going to ask me questions and they were going to get in my way of what I was doing. So I literally go in the house, take a shower. I was so grateful. I was there long enough to shower, do my laundry, eat a piece of cheese and lettuce on a piece of squishy white bread. And then I had to leave because someone was going to question me. And I didn't want to show up like that. So it was like, okay, I can't go to my house until I've slept. And then when I finally slept, I slept for 2 or 3 days and I always missed my appointment. We had to do appointments and that's good. I was mad then. If I wanted to see my kids, I had to say I'll be there at 3:30 and show up at 3:30. And that never happened. I mean, I would sleep for 2 days at a time. And when I say I slept, it was because I'd been awake for probably 23. That was my goal. My goal was to stay up as long as possible. Or, it was just awful. And so trying to come home, and my dad's in recovery, 33 years. And so I would come to the house and he knew what was going on. So then it was like, how much makeup can I put on? What can I put on my body to make me look like I'm fine? And I never was. And going to see my kids, I wanted it to be right. And so let's say I was throwing a birthday party and for my little girl, and it was okay, we got to get there. And then I couldn't get in the shower, and then somebody robbed me. And now I don't have this. I mean, every party I had, somebody stole my money and they knew it was for my kids. And so it was like birthday party, sleep at a hotel. Somebody thought my $80 was better for their heroin. I would make a bad choice and say, okay, the party's too, I'm a gambler, right? I'm an addict. And so it's like, oh, okay, $250. Let's buy that in drugs, go to the house, go to the party. And then by the time the party's over, I'll make my money back. And then I got robbed. So now I don't have anything to make my money back and I don't have this. And so like, I was always ashamed. I was always begging for somebody to get me out of the mess I created. And my family was like, no, dude, that's your mess. not getting you a hotel. I'm not getting you this. Dude, you said you would show up at 3:30 and you didn't. And I was just a constant failure. My kids didn't deserve that. And I wanted them, excuses I would make is, well, I need to bring them a gift so they know that I love them. And if I didn't have a gift, then, well, it could be a mission to get the gift too, right?
Yes.
It was just constant, never showing up. And I felt like a piece of trash,
That's where I found with my wife when she was in the depths of her addiction. It was, she would work on getting herself sober. And then, of course, something in life or something to justify her to use, she'd go back. And then as soon as she used, then that guilt would start taking over, that she put me through it again. She put her kids through it, that she even put herself through it. And I've said many times on the show, that constant hamster wheel that we all get on, because I would jump on that hamster wheel with her, and just continue. I mean, our lives were pretty much lived the same exact way for 4.5 years when she was really in the depth of her addiction. And there's so much guilt and there's so much shame and pain that's felt on both sides. I mean, that's definitely something I don't ever want to go through again, but I can see kind of where your family was going, with not wanting you around, because there was many times I didn't want my wife around either. And then when I would throw her out or kick her out, then I'd feel guilty and ashamed that I did that to her, thinking I'm her husband. I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be the one that's there for support, and just not even understanding the guilt that she was going through.
Yeah. Well, and I think our brains play tricks on us too. And so our brains make us feel even worse. And it's easy to be a victim, right? Like just playing the victim alone and that pity party. It's like, you probably don't need drugs to have a pity party or to feel like you're a victim either, or alcohol. But my family always wanted good for me. And it took me about 2 years ago, I had this realization that I thought I learned accountability pretty quick. And I finally realized, I cried for years saying, my parents are so bad. They kicked me out. Why would they do this to me? And here's me being accountable. They kicked me out because their home wasn't a place to do drugs in. And I chose to be homeless because I could have stayed at my parents' house. I just can't smoke meth in the bathroom. I can't. God forbid, Rachel, we say no. And I was the victim of if I had alcohol, my dad was pouring it out. And never take away somebody's cigarettes, never throw someone's drugs or alcohol away, right? That's a mix for a real bad night. And I finally got the accountability where I got to say, dude, it was my choice. It wasn't what happened to me. It wasn't the trauma that got me there. I wanted a place where I could party like a 20-year-old. Yeah. And my home was not that. And my parents, they loved me enough to tell me, you got to go. It was never nice. You know what I mean? And it was always quick. They were like, you can stay here. That's fine. I'm leaving. I didn't even give them a chance to tell me, stop doing drugs and you can stay here. I was just like, that's it. I'm gone. You're abusive. And it was like, but it took a long time to get there, and it was hard for them too. I mean, addiction is it's no stranger to my home. My older sister has a really hard problem. Cool part about my family history is a lot of my cousins have multiple years in recovery now. My second cousins, aunts and uncles, some have died from alcoholism or addiction, but I have one cousin has 5 years, another has 8, another second cousin's got 30, 25. I mean, we've got years of good recovery in our family. So
that's powerful.
So no crime.
Yeah, I love that.
Part of our family barbecues that happen here is we've got the one side who's still making homemade beer and the other side who's way over there saying, we got to stay away from that side. But it's cool because most of the people in my home have worked a 12-step program. Most in my family do. And so it's like, when I tried to cry victim, they're like, pretty sure it's you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm the homeless one. Like, wait, that was my fault, wasn't it? And that was hard for me to actually like really learn and believe. Like, wait, I made myself homeless because all I cared about was drugs. And I did. That was the truth, you know?
So Rachel, when you said that it was a couple years ago that the accountability piece came in, but you've been in recovery for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
What happened in those 3 years to help you hold yourself accountable a couple years ago?
I think I was going through some stuff with my older sister, and she was living with us, and she had recently got kicked out, and she was like, our family's so awful. And it was an eye-opener. It was like, oh my gosh, that's what I did. Who cares if I'm homeless? That was and I finally realized, holy shit, this whole time, like, it was just my fault. My dad wasn't a bad guy. And my dad and I didn't start to become friends till about 2 years ago. I mean, 5 years in, our relationship has always been, well, I think always been rocky. I've always been a powerhouse, and he is the powerhouse, right? And so we've always like headbutted, and I've been running away since I was a kid. And he said, you can't go to a party. I just ran away from home, you know, like, I'll show you. So I've been doing this since I was 15 years old. And so there's a lot of hurt and a lot of pain that has come from my own addiction. And I finally was willing to stop blaming my dad. And I think he had actually said something to me once, because he was like, you and your sister are fighting. And I'm like, she's blaming me for this, and I didn't do anything. And he's like, but what's your part? What did you do? How did you respond? And he was like, you can only be responsible for your actions. And I'm like, she's the one that stole money from me. What does this have to do with me? He's like, what did you do? And I'm like, nothing. And finally I started to listen, and it was like, oh, I've been taking this accountability thing all wrong. Just because I say I own my stuff doesn't mean I'm being accountable. And my reactions and the way I do things and how I run and how I yell and how I this and that, that's me. I left. They didn't kick me out. Like, I left. I just threw my hands up and said, don't mess with me. My drugs are right outside. I'm going. I'm gone. You know?
Yeah, it's been beautiful to watch the shift in you and your father's relationship. I noticed it 2 years ago too, by far.
And
right?
we're friends.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now you're friends. Before you did not like him at all. She
No.
did not. Sorry, Dad, but she complained about you a lot at first, you know,
Yeah.
but
And
there's been a shift. Yeah. And so what I'm hearing is that by you taking accountability and cleaning your side of the street, not just in your addiction, but just now, right? Like, 'cause things shift. I know for my own recovery, my first years in recovery, I similar kind of played still the victim role, right? Even with my childhood. And not that those things didn't happen, but also like I just seen it in a different perspective now that here I am, the more healing and recovery I get. And I'm a mom, right? With kids too.
Right.
And I know that we just try our best and we mess up all the time. Right. And so like just seeing a shift, and it just a little tiny shift helps relationships heal. And I'm happy that you have that now with your dad.
From what I have seen with having so many amazing guests on the show, that accountability is like a really tough one to kick, right? Because my wife and I have even had this discussion on our show, but how that blame is always somewhere else. You know, I did this because of this person. And even though I haven't fallen into the addiction, but I've done the exact same thing. You know, I used to have a really bad temper, which I've shared on the show many times. And one day I hurt someone that I cared about. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? And when I went through 6 months of therapy, I remember the therapist getting me upset, and she did it for a reason. She got me upset for a reason so she could show to me that I actually had a choice. And also I did not have to take the accountability for my actions for acting the way that I did. And it took me a hell of a long time baby step after baby step to get myself to where I'd probably say at least a couple years continuously working on it. So I can see even how, even with my wife, with her being coming up, I think on 19 months, just still that accountability. It's hard for all of us, but I can imagine it would be harder for someone that's in the addiction world. I mean, you ladies would know more than me because I'm not 100% sure, but
I'll say for me, like it's for the pain, right? You just have so much pain bottled up and you just like want to place it on somebody else, which is not the best thing, but you want to place it on somebody else. So then it's harder to take accountability because you are in pain. And so at least that's for me. Rachel, would you say the similar?
Yeah. Like I had, we can go to like the dysfunctional family part. There was dysfunction. And I'll tell you a fun story, not fun, it's terrible, but the reason why my dad attempted to start to get sober was, and this is where accountability will come in, is he was on a bender one night and he came home to me and my three sisters and my mom hiding in a closet. And he was I don't remember this, I was young, but he was a terror. And I don't know what happened, but he thought he killed us. Like he came home from his bender, we were gone, he blacked out, thought we had killed each other, or he killed us. And this was my life all the time. Like my dad's a bully, he's a New York tough guy. And it was so much easier, like as an addict, to blame your childhood and to blame your, whatever it is, like, oh, I got raped last week, here's this, oh, I got divorced, oh, they stole from me, whatever. It's easier to blame other people because then it's almost like you don't have to, it's real in a whole fake world. You know what I mean? Yeah. And learning, like as an addict, to become accountable when your whole life's a lie, everything's a lie. You don't even know it's true anymore. Mm-hmm. Like you live a life, and I'll say, I don't know what a right percentage is, but I'd say about 85% of the people out there who are using are living a life that is not who they genuinely, authentically really are. Even on my worst using day, I'm still trying to help somebody, whether it's helping them get high, helping them, get a ride to go steal something. I'm still kind of like my true, authentic self. And so I won't say authentic because I'm doing terrible things, but to have to own all those things where it's like, that was all my fault. That was me. I made that situation be what it is. I don't want to take that on. I have to own that I left my children to be a drug addict on the street and I caused them trauma. I'd rather blame it on my dad, who was a freaking abusive man. That's way easier.
Yeah, I was just going to say much easier.
Like my kid's dad was abusive. Way easier than saying I chose to leave the house and do drugs because that was what my mind was telling me was funner. Way easier to blame it on somebody else. So like as an addict, to take accountability, you have to like really own that life you lived. And I didn't want to do that for a long time. I thought just saying I was an addict and I was in recovery meant I took accountability. And it was like, wait a minute, there's a whole nother ship that I got to jump on and work and weed out and fish out,
Yeah, you have to own the pain that you caused your loved ones or anybody, right?
Yeah.
Because we're trapped with all this pain from somebody that might have done something to us or a childhood, like you said, all those things that you named. And then we cause pain to people we cared about. And that's just a lot. That's very heavy to take on. So with my personal experiences, it took me a couple years into recovery to get to that point. I was similar to almost exactly. At first, I'm like, yeah, I own that I robbed this place, or I own that I did this, right? All those charges. Yes, I did that. But get down deeper, right? Then it took a couple years. Like, okay, yeah, you're right. Like, I'm not going to blame anything else on, the reason why I left my kids, similar to you or did whatever.
Like, realizing it was all your fault. It's after years of blaming other people, it was like, ooh, I don't want to do this. That sucks.
It's hard. It's so hard.
Yeah.
I think it's tough for any of us I blame my wife for a lot of things within the depths of her addiction. I played that, oh, feel sorry for Al because he has a wife that's an alcoholic and this, that, and the other thing,
Yeah.
I don't even know how many times I was yelling and screaming at her. She was drunk, which all that was just pissing fuel on the fire anyway. But yeah, I'd blame her for everything that I was going through, our financial stuff. I mean, everything. And it took me a while to realize, wait a minute here. I'm the one that's causing these acts. I mean, she's doing her addiction, but really the blame is still also on me. So even a lot of times when her and I have gone up and we've shared our story at recovery centers, I'll start sharing some of the stuff that she put me through, but I also have to stop and say, look, if you think I'm blaming her for everything, I'm not, because I'm a huge part of this as well. I had a guest tell me, oh, it really does suck, and I had a guest on the show that ended up being my co-host for a while, JD. And he said, Al, if you think about it, you were addicted to your wife's addiction. And I went, holy shit, I never thought of it that way, but I really was. So
you were on the hamster wheel.
I was on the hamster wheel. Yes. As we said. Yeah. And I don't know how many times I put my foot out to slow it down, but it never stopped enough to jump off. Yeah, it's crazy. So I think the lesson that I have learned through a lot of this is we all have to take accountability, because it is hard also for the family members. And it sounds like you've had a lot of family that's been in the addiction part, but the ones that haven't, it's so hard for us to understand everything that's going on. One of the things that hit me really hard once is I went and picked my wife up for a weekend. She had a 24-hour pass. She was staying at the Epic at the time. And she was telling me about all this stuff that was going on at the house. And I listened to her and finally I'm like, okay, well, being her husband, I'm going to throw in my shoulds and things. And I started throwing out all this stuff. And she goes, can I stop you for a minute? And I said, yeah, what? And she goes, for effing once, I wish you'd be my damn husband instead of my damn therapist. Did you think it still resonated in here? No, it didn't, because I'm like, well, wait a minute. No, I'm here to help you. I know what you're going through. It took me a long time to realize I have no business telling her. And again, this is a word I'm using on getting out of my vocabulary, is the should. I have no business telling her what she should and should not do, because I've not walked in her shoes. I know some of her pain. I know some of her history, but her feelings, how can I feel her feelings? There's no way I can do that. And it's like her stepping foot in my shoes. She feels guilty for what she's done, but again, she's not been in my shoes. So how does she know? So we've really worked between the two of us as a couple, worked on understanding a little bit more about that. And that's why I love doing this show, because this is my therapy. I mean, seriously, when I have a guest on the show like you, or when we've had Tiffany and Talia on, it's my therapy, because I get to learn just a little bit more of the battle that my wife has gone through and what she still continue to go through, because she's still taking those baby steps in building, herself up. Because really, she still has a long ways to go, even though she's done an incredible job, but she still has a long way to go. And so do I.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I think I love that you said something in there, like, we all have different tolerances to things, right? Like my tolerance to pain, I'm wuss. Okay. And then I see my nephew or my dad doing stuff, and my dad's got chronic back pain for years, and he won't take a painkiller for life. I mean, he's got arthritis and he just did 3 different back surgeries, and he's like up in the morning and he's making sure to get things done. Like, I admire my dad. Like, I still haven't had a chance to like write the post I want, because he just, I hope one day, I did marry my dad a long time ago, but I hope that my new boyfriend or marriage, whenever it happens, I want to marry someone like him, and because he's got good qualities. But our pain, our tolerance to emotions, our tolerance to what we're sensitive to, what makes us laugh, what makes us angry. I don't have a temper, right? And so when somebody says I'm hot tempered, I'm just like, I don't even know what that means. And how could somebody get so mad? Because like, I'm so free spirited. And how could somebody, so it's like trying to understand where somebody else is. We just can't do that, because how us as people is our tolerance to everything is different. Like my sister can't handle the heat. She goes into a straight panic attack. She gets all kinds of crazy. And I'm like, 100-degree weather, bring it on. Let me sit and roast, you know? But so like when you're trying to understand somebody's addiction and trying to be like, well, I get that, I do that too. It's like, but you just never know what does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what do you think, Tiffany? I mean, we all handle things differently.
We all handle things differently. We recover differently, right, Rachie?
Yeah.
I just called you Rachie on there. But yes, it's just kind of like, I guess if trying to help people that are not in recovery understand better, it's like having multiple kids, right? Each kid, like you have to discipline, talk to, parent differently. That's same with all of us, like in recovery or just anyone in general, right? Yes. Everybody, you have to talk to someone, the tone of your voice, everything. And so we can never truly know like what we're going to get or how each situation is going to affect the person. And I mean, going back to when we were on the streets, Rachael, together, right? We were together a lot and we ran with the same crowds. We were doing most of the same stuff, right? And activities. And there's just certain things that would really upset you. And then it wouldn't even bother me. I'm like, girl, what are you talking about? And then other things, right? What was my nickname? Crazy on the street. I would get really crazy and she'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on with you. So it's everyone ticks different and we just never know. And so I think just remembering that.
Yeah.
I think also about taking an account of how somebody's history, like, so you said, Rachael, that you grew up in a dysfunctional family. We've had a guy on our show who was from the Other Side Academy that grew up in the gangs in LA. And, I mean, he was doing drugs at age 5-6 years old because it was around the family. And I grew up in a family where my dad, if something didn't go right, you threw a fit, you hit things, you threw things, you kick things. And it's so crazy as I've started to learn more about people by doing this show that we think a lot of this stuff is just normal. We just think that's how life is, not realizing that there's something outside of our own box. It took, like I said, it took me till I was in my mid-20s to realize I don't have to act this way. If something doesn't go right, I don't have to throw a fit, and how many people that we've had on our show that said that they hit rock bottom and then they realized that there was another rock bottom underneath that rock bottom, and then that choice, it finally went off. And I've been just as guilty too, where I've driven downtown years ago and see someone that's homeless or someone that is wasted. And you're like, why don't you get your shit together, man? Give back to society. Now that I've been in the community that I've been, some of the stories that I've heard, I'm going, oh my hell, I would probably be doing the same damn thing you did. How the hell did you? Well, I know how you handled it. You got yourself high or drunk all the time, but my hell, I can't imagine. I've had people say to me, oh, my childhood sucked. And they start telling me their childhood, and I won't dislabel what they're saying because I'm thinking in my head, my gosh, if you've heard some of the stories on my show that I've heard, you'd think that yours was all rainbows and unicorns. It's crazy.
But you go back to the tolerance and how everybody picks. And so who to say which one is worse or not, right?
Yeah, right.
And so it's just how it affects somebody. I was wondering, Rachael, so what are some of the, so you said that, so your dad has 33 years almost, right, in recovery. So you were 9 when he got sober?
Well, he did. So here, my dad's story is kind of cool. My dad was a young user young. I mean, New York, 60s. And he decided to get sober at Odyssey House in New York City. And so I didn't know that Odyssey House was like all over the country. I just thought it was a Utah program. And I just had learned this. My dad's never told his story in front of us because he's got his own shame and he doesn't think it's our business. Like, I guess not his own shame. It's not my business the things he'd done. You know, he's never wanted us to know that. But the whole reason our family even has ties to Utah is my dad they were opening Odyssey House in Utah, and they had asked the guys who were in the program if somebody wanted to go be peer support out there and open the program. And so my dad was like, yeah, dude, I'll go. And he went, and I think Odyssey House might still, I don't know what they teach now. I haven't worked there, but they were like, well, you don't have to do heroin anymore, but every day after work, go to the bar, get a drink, reward yourself. And my dad's an addict of the worst kind, right? Like a typical addict, we'll call it. For my dad, they said, go get a drink. And he was like, I'm going to drink a drink this big, straight of liquor. And so he had stopped doing the hard drugs, but then he became an alcoholic. And so when I would say before 5, my dad was on a lot of painkillers and heroin and drinking. And then he had started to stop. I think I was 4 when that incident, or 5 when the incident of the closet happened. And then he had a relapse and he had taken a couple of pills. And so he started his time over, but I blocked everything out of my childhood. Like, I couldn't tell you any memory because of how horrible it was growing up in my home. I don't have any memories of Christmas. I don't have memories I blocked it all out. So one day I'd love to know what it was like to grow up in my home, but I really don't know.
You just know it was dysfunctional.
It was dysfunctional. My dad's a yeller and I'm a yeller. And like, my mom is like this really sweet LDS woman. She doesn't curse. She drank once or twice in her life, smoked 1 puff of a cigarette. And so she's so naive to this world that we're in. It's like, dad's a yeller, mom's depressed, she hates what's happening. It was crazy. But growing up, I remember being a teenager, and when we had moved from New York to Utah, and that being traumatic, which was kind of where my real trauma started. We'll just go there because I don't remember what it was like. Like, there's stories of my dad holding me out the window by my neck because he was like using me as a tool or telling my mom, I'll drop her if you don't give me the money for the stuff. I don't remember that. Yeah. And so, I mean, my older sister tells me that she remembers, and that was part of her trauma, which why she was using. But I don't remember that. I remember when we moved to Utah and everybody made fun of me because my accent was so strong, and it was like crazy. I was like, you're straight up Queens, New Yorker. And y'all just laughed at me all the time. And I went from being like a popular neighborhood kid to I dressed funny. My music was funny. They're like, tell Rachael to talk. And then the whole class and the teachers and the people at church, they're just laughing. And they weren't laughing because they were laughing at me. I now know they just thought I talked really cool. And it was just like,
I was part of that crowd in high school. And now I'm like, it's hurting my heart because I did laugh even just because I thought it was cool because I love New York.
Well, as an adult, I know, like, when I'm saying coffee, talk, my sister, my mother, everybody loved it. And I'm sitting here walking to school saying, talk. I talk to my friends. I'm walking to the store and really like trying to fit in. It was awful. And that's like where my whole thing came, and like where my trouble started, because I finally found a group of misfits who were all from other areas, and they talked funny, and they found the crowd that worked for them, and they wanted to smoke weed, and they wanted to get into gangs. Like, I remember the guys I hung out with were trying to decide, were they going to be Crips or Bloods? And when I moved back to Utah, I found them, and they were gangsters and pimps and doing drive-bys. And in their 30s and never changed. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, it was wild. Like, a big part of my story is, or not story, what I love to tell people is you are who you hang out with, right? So we moved to Utah and I was running for my addiction, and I came to Utah to I didn't want to go back to drugs. And the girls were just starting elementary school. And I went to a bar and I found my old friends, and they were doing the exact same thing they were doing 15 years ago. And I started hanging out with them. And then guess what I started doing? Same thing that they were doing, and hanging out with the same crowds. And it was like, I learned this round in my recovery of how important it is you are who you hang out with. If I want to hang out with gangsters, I'm going to be a gangster. If I want to hang out with a bunch of meth heads, I'm going to do meth. And it's like that AA term where they're always like, if you go to the barbershop enough, you're going to get your hair cut. And that's what happened. And I've learned this over and over again. Keep hanging out with the wrong crowds. And that's what happens. So now I love to say in recovery, like my table of women, that if I was to say, well, maybe not today because I don't have any friends in Utah, but if I did or in New York, a virtual table, every woman at the table has something I want and has something to offer the world. And for a long time, I just kind of hung out, and I don't want to call them nobodies, but people who didn't aspire to be something,
They were comfortable in their skin doing what they were doing.
Yeah. And my table now, it's a bunch of powerful women like Tiffany and all these other people. And it's like, I want to be like them. And that's the table I want to sit at. I don't want to sit at the table that I used to feel bad for everybody and be like, it's not about money. It's not about how big your house is. I don't care if you live in your car. I still love you. I don't want to be around a bunch of people like that anymore, because then I'm there.
Yeah.
And now you have something to offer, right?
Yeah. And I love to be that. Like, I love being somebody that I always thought I had to be humble because of how our family is. And that it was like, oh, date the poorest guy. Prove to the guy that you don't care if he's homeless and has no money and no job. You love him for him. I don't want to do that anymore either. You know what I mean? I'm done loving people like that. But I want to help people. But you know what I mean? We teach ourselves these really crazy, behaviors, I guess. And then we get to start setting beliefs and standards of what we think we are. And like today, that table that I'm talking about, I belong there. And I go from a kid who everybody laughed at, and it felt like nobody liked me unless I was hanging out with other bad misfits. But now my table of misfits are still all people who have worked really hard to be something. And they said, I have a dream, and they're going for it. And I don't know, I love that.
I think that's really cool that you said that, Rachel. I've said this in some of my speaking engagements, that addicts are not the labels that society has put upon them. For me, they are some of the most spiritual and inspirational people I have ever been around. And again, that's another reason why I love being in the studio, is because those are the type of people that I want to be around. People who have gone through shit and gone through hell and dug down deep inside to figure out who they are as an individual, knowing that they're not that person that everybody says that they are. And I'm just as guilty as pointing the fingers. Now, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps. Now I realize how amazing people like yourselves are, because you guys have gone from some really, really dark places to where you guys are the light, and I believe as a spiritual person, God is using you guys to help us, because that's how I'm looking at it. You guys are helping me. And I've shared this story so many times, and I'd like to share this before we go on a break. I went to an AA meeting with my wife once, and this guy gets up and he's getting his 10 or 15 year chip. And he started off by going, every morning I wake up and I thank God for making me an alcoholic. And I leaned over to my wife and I said, that guy is effing nuts. Why would anybody thank God for making them an alcoholic? as he continued to share his story and he got done, I realized why. And this is where the emotions come up. Hanging around people who have battled addiction and they're in recovery, the way you guys look at life is the way all of us should be looking at life from a very early age up to in our adulthood, and we lose that. This is what's so amazing for me, is because you look at life like it is the most gifted and wonderful thing, which it is. And the reason why you guys look at it, because you've guys been in the depth of hell. And in my eyes, we can all learn from that, us even on the other side. And that's what I have really enjoyed about doing interviews with people like yourself and Tiffany and so many other amazing people, is I get to learn from you guys. I get to open my eyes and go, you know what? Sometimes the day may suck, but as the day goes, it's like, it doesn't suck as bad as so-and-so that I've had on my show. Or, it's not as bad as I think it is, because it could be a hell of a lot worse. My grandpa used to say, there's a lot worse things than dying. And I never understood it until I got further into my adulthood, when I realized there are a lot worse things than dying. So, yeah. All right, guys. Hey, we're going to stop for a quick commercial break. Stay with us. We'll be right back to hear more of what Rachael has to say. Thank you.
Have you ever been in a car accident? Do you know what to do after being in a car accident? Are the insurance companies going to take care of you? Hi, I'm attorney Rick Heaton with the Law Office of Bobby Udall. I will help you through the process and answer all of these questions. I give every single client my cell phone so they can talk to me whenever they need. Let me deal with the insurance company so you can focus on getting better from your injuries. Call me at 385-330-0226. Again, my cell phone number, 385-330-0226. Don't call the insurance company first. Call attorney Rick Heaton at 385-330-0226.
This is Gregory, owner of Lift Up Concrete, proudly serving the Wasatch Front for the last 12 years, lifting sunken flatwork for both residential and commercial applications. Only fully trained professionals lifting concrete at your residence with the same quality of material and method used at every commercial job we ever do. Don't replace it, lift it. liftupconcrete.net, 801-792-4535. Contact us at liftupconcrete.net, or if you're looking for a complimentary quote, 801-792-4535. Again, 801-792-4535. Again, this is Gregory, Lift Up Concrete Lifting.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Other Side of Addiction. We are here with our special guest, and I'm going to do my best not to slaughter your last name, Rachael Pioltini.
Yes.
All right. I got it. And we are also joined here with Tiffany Nacarado. So Tiffany, thank you again for being here with us. I love the first part of the show. Gosh, I think almost all of us can say we grew up in a dysfunctional family in one way or another, but some people's dysfunction is a lot different than someone else's. But Tiffany, you were saying right before we came on, you had a question for Rachael.
Yeah, I'm interested to know how it is being back in the house that you said that, a lot of dysfunction happened as a child, and now you're currently living there, right?
Yeah.
So what?
So this house is weird. So it used to be my grandparents' house. And so it started off with my dad, my grandma and grandpa, and their awful dysfunction, and them and kids is being here. And then when my grandparents died, my dad bought the house. And so it's us being here. And again, I'm telling you, it's a very small house. It's a little 2-bedroom cottage. There's 6 of us staying here and 2 Rottweilers. Okay. Like just the dogs alone.
Wow.
My old house, right?
Yeah.
So just the dogs alone are way too big for here. And it's really cool to be here. Like my sister and I used to, my brain's going too fast. There's a lot of trauma, and there has never, ever been, ever, children. You guys don't, for those of you who don't see me with my pointer stick, there's never been a summer or an event or a party where my family wasn't fighting. And the same with my cousins and their family. And so this summer already, we've been here for about 3 weeks. My twins here, there's literally 4 of us in 1 bedroom, plus the dog. And we haven't had one fight. We're out here schlepping away, doing all this like moving stuff. And our move here, let me tell you, was awful. Like the sun's gonna shine here. I promise you it has to. But from everybody getting a stomach virus, to my dad getting COVID, to the tires going flat, the hitch falling off. I mean, we've got every reason for this to be just all awful, hot, humid, and we're all right. This house and these walls, just the energy alone in here is not well, I think it's kind of cleared up because we're okay. But I would imagine this is going to be the first summer we've ever had. I'm not completely wasted. My sister doesn't drink while she's here. My other sisters aren't here. My nephews aren't here causing chaos and ruckus. Like, it's a fun experience. And that's not what happens. Dinners there's always somebody leaving the table. There's always someone getting pissed off. There's always, somebody's taking a walk or something bad's always happening. And like my whole family has finally healed. And I don't know if that's through, well, I do know. One, it's time. We've all learned a lot, but we've accepted who each other is. I mean, I'm a tease. I'm awful. I'm always poking the bear. I'm always trying to get somebody riled up. But it's not to a part. Well, sometimes it's hurtful, but I own that. But it's not to the point where we're hurting each other, where we have to go drink over it, and I can't tell you how I felt a little trapped here. And I told my mom the other day, I'm like, dude, now I really have nowhere to go. Usually I can run away, and I can't run away here. But it hasn't gotten to a point
the beach. I've seen
your
pictures on the beach.
I can do, but my dad and I got in a little fight the other day, just a little one. Like, he annoyed me, and it's hot, and he's overworking me, and I'm sick of moving heavy stuff, and he's wanting to do all these things. And I'm like, I came into my mom, and I'm like, dude, I can't just pick up my kids and go to a hotel for the weekend. Somebody's calling me. Hold on.
Oh. We lost her. All right. So I guess we'll interview each other. So how do you think this is going?
It's going great.
Yeah. Now, I had no clue that both of you guys was on the street together.
Mm-hmm. So
wow.
In high school, junior high school. No, wait, maybe just high school, but then on the streets, taking care of each other. And then, here she is. And then we came back into recovery. And our recovery story is epic, how we got into.
Yeah.
Wow. That is cool.
We can't see you.
Yeah, we see the, oh, there she is.
Pressed
We got her
end
back.
call, but it answered the phone call.
Oh,
I don't know what I did, but I
Good thing this isn't live. See?
yeah.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but it's okay. That's what makes it so cool is it's authentic,
Yeah.
even though it's
I
not
know.
live,
I was
right?
like, oh my gosh, sorry, I gotta call you back. I was shocked when you guys disappeared.
Rachel, the reason why I asked you that is because there's certain places, right? People, places, and things, but I'm particularly talking about places that I go to that I like have had chaos or I've used in or whatever that trigger me. And for example, like I have my mother's house that my brother and I inherited, and then my brother bought it, right? From me, and he currently lives there with his family, and he's remodeled the whole thing. And still, like, I will go in there and I can enjoy my time in there, and I just have to like shift my mindset, but I get triggered. Like pain comes up and I hold back tears, right? One, because my mom has passed, but also just of stuff that happened in there. And so I guess I was looking for like do you have any like triggers? Like it could be a picture on the wall, right? Or a door, something.
I love that you say that, because that's the reason I moved to New York, is because everything in Utah was a trigger for me. And it's really weird. So, yes, I did a lot of partying here, and this will be funny. Like I told my parents, and I can have these conversations with them now. When I left Utah, one of the main reasons was every corner I got high on was still the corner I got high on. And even though I'm 5 years into my story, almost, and I do all this great work, and I've definitely started to replace the memories with good memories, because that's something that's really hard. And I think why a lot of people continue to go back out is you've got to replace all those bad memories of all those years with new memories and recreate a new life. And I was like, dude, that's still Wayne's Corner. And that's still the apartment that this awful thing happened. And that's still this. And everywhere I left was like, it still was there. And so I wanted to go somewhere. My dream was to go to like Tennessee or North Carolina, where just that chapter was closed. And then this weekend, my sister, this is hilarious because she completely harmless. And everywhere her and I go, she's reliving our 20s. And she's like, oh my gosh, girls, telling my kids, this is where your mom and I used to do that. This is where your mom and I used to do that. Thinking is, dude, I'm trying not to live that anymore. And my 20s were harmless. Like I was just drunk, being young, and, her and I doing whatever we did. And it wasn't hurting. Well, it was hurting us, but it wasn't hurting people like my drug days were. And so I told my dad, she keeps bringing up the old stuff, which is why I left in the first place. And I'm not mad, because again, like here never led me to leave my kids. Everything in Utah left me to leave my children. And so I've been coming here every summer most of my life since we left, but we stopped when COVID happened. So we just haven't been here the last 2 summers. But I think you'll remember this tip a couple years ago when we came, I was getting really upset because everybody drinks.
I do remember
a lot
that.
of my cousins drink. And actually you taught me something really good, and I use it to this day. I would sit at the barbecue at my cousin's house and everybody's drinking, and I'm just writing in our BAM chat how pissed I am that everybody gets to get drunk, and how pissed I am that I can't be a normie. I can't have one beer. I can't have one freaking glass of wine, because me and one glass of wine means I'm back in New York City now, haven't come home for 4 days, and I'm on a bunch of meth or coke or crack or whatever I can find. And I feed into that. They're still all a little weird with COVID here. And my cousin's wife now doesn't drink. And so I think going to the family barbecues will be better and not triggering, because my other cousin doesn't drink anymore either. So I feel a little blessed for that. But I haven't had those triggering situations because I just haven't gone there. But now they're not drinking at the party anymore, and they're not drinking on the beach because somebody's other half is sober now.
That's cool.
And
I'm
newly
curious,
sober.
what did I teach you? Because I don't remember this.
Sorry, you taught me to, instead of being pissed off about not being able to have the drink, being grateful that I've got a soda to drink or something like that. Like
Oh.
I can drink
I
a
like that.
seltzer that's carbonated and still feel the carbonation of the beer, but I'm not getting drunk. And like, you just taught me how to change my perception, my perspective. Like I could sit and be mad all night that I can't have a drink, or I could be really glad that at least I can have a cold glass of water and enjoy their company.
Yeah,
And
but you were on vacation. I remember that.
Yeah.
You were pissed.
yeah,
It is
oh, I
annoying.
was pissed.
It is annoying
Yeah.
when you don't have the
Yeah.
tools and you're early in recovery and everybody's, you know what I mean? But it's not their responsibility either, right?
Well,
I think
because
I said
that's
that.
what I know. You know, what I know here is going out and getting drunk with all my cousins and my ones that are close in my age, not my dad's cousins, so whatever. Like that's what we did. We would go barbecue, and then they're wanting to go to bed at 8:00, and I'm like, it's 10:30, and I'm like, do you guys have another bottle? Let's open one. You know, like, oh, go home. Why would I go home? Can I take another bottle with me? Like, and 2 years ago, it was hard for me here because I felt like they can drink and I can't. But now I'm already prepared for going to the park. But now I don't have to do that because they're not drinking because of my
That was
cousin.
my question.
Um,
Like, how are you preparing yourself for, because every family, right,
Yeah.
still argues. Like you said, you had that little argument with your dad. There's still maybe some blow ups that happen even when
Yeah.
we get sober, right? So how are you tackling that going on in the 2-bedroom house that you're used to living in a big, huge house with each person having their own space? So now you're in a 2-bedroom. How are you going to tackle this long summer, right? Where I don't know how long you're staying in that house, if that's your permanent spot, but being in this little space with your loved ones when arguments or fights arise, or if somebody drinks, right? Because you can't, I know you said most people don't drink, but we never know. There's the two sides. So how are you preparing yourself to handle all those things now that your mindset has changed?
I'm learning to walk away. And I did that the other day, and it was like, dude, I can just walk away. I don't have to get the last word in. Like, I love to get the last word in.
Yes, you do.
And that, you know, if you're yelling, I'm going to yell louder. And if you're using a tone, then I'm going to start with the curse words because I know the curse words are going to get you bad. You know, I know all how to do that. And the 2 times where it's got heated, I was like, just walking away, dude. I'm just walking away. And you know what? My dad came down. We had a little fight. I don't even remember what it was over. It was like moving a safe that I thought I had no business having to move, right? I'm pissed. I get so many good things I could be mad at today. Like, if that's my problem, moving the piano, I'll take it. But he came in and he sat next to me after I walked away, and I showed him, like, I'm just not going to let that take up my space. And he came in and he said, I love you, Rach. I'm sorry. You know, let's not talk about it, but will you go get an ice cream with me? And I was like, yeah, actually, are you buying? You know? And the old me I would have taken that for a week. I would have used that and used it to be like, nope, you said this, I'm going to be in control and you're not going to get me, and would have got ugly. Do I know if on a really hot, humid day and I'm hangry if I'll do that? I don't know. But my hope is I have wanted to be by the beach for so long that it's literally 1 block away from my house, that if I'm upset, I can just go walk to the beach and go find my happy place. Mm-hmm. The drinking, you know, like I either stay there or I don't. That I can't control. But it doesn't bug me today. But I do know that I'm only 1 drink away from my next drunk. And so I have to be careful. Like, I'm not going to go hang out at the bars that I remember having so much fun at. Like, I just don't need to do that. I can go to a meeting and find other friends. Like, it's weird. Let's talk about that though. Like, here is totally different than Salt Lake. Salt Lake has so much recovery. It doesn't matter where you go. You can have any kind of group you want, all pathways, 12-step type pathway, no, you know, whatever it is. And here, it's like, there's an AA meeting and they don't, you know, it's different. So everything I've been doing to keep myself sober for the last 5 years, which I've just changed from using drugs because I'm an addict, right? I'm not a drug addict anymore. I really don't think I am. If I start using, yes, but I am an addict and I'm addicted to so many things. I have an addictive personality. I have an addiction to food. You know, I have addiction to chaos. I have addiction to my biggest new addiction, which is healthy, is helping people and serving people and being of service. Like when I work, I'm a workaholic. I work like I use drugs, literally. And here, I don't know what to do with myself. There are no homeless people where I live out here. And if they are, they just came on a bus and they'll go back to the city later. And so I don't know what I'm going to do to like, well, I do know I'm
going to say, yes, you do.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm going to call you on your BS right now.
Yeah.
You know a little bit.
No, I do know, but
and it's incredible. And I can't wait for her to share, but go ahead. Sorry.
I came here to follow my dreams. Like I have been so addicted to being of service, and that's where BAM comes in. And like, we've done so many things to help people. And I've used that as like my scapegoat or my codependency of healing, and kind of trap myself into it where I don't do the things I love anymore. I mean, I love helping people, but now I'm going to go volunteer and save the sea turtles, which literally is my dream come true. And
that's cool.
Maybe it's better that there aren't a lot of homeless people here, because they trump everybody to me, and in a good way. Like I want to help save the world.
Sorry, I want to pause you for a minute, because when we were in the depths of our addiction in trap houses, she used to say, I'm going to go save the turtles.
And here she is now.
Here she is now saving the turtles.
Finally.
Very emotional and just beautiful. So happy.
Oh, I can't wait. But all there is here is AA. Like there's not, or NA or a 12-step program. There's not groups like what we have in Salt Lake. So, and they're not accepted out here. It's like trying to go into Kanab and saying, you know, or maybe how Utah County used to be 10 years ago. Like if you say addiction, they're like, oh, we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
We don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about addiction here, you know? And so that's a little different for me. And maybe it's a good thing for me. I don't work a 12-step program. I never have, only because my dad, and he's like the guru of NA and AA. And so I've always been like, well, I could do it without him. I'm going to prove him wrong, which is terrible for me. That only keeps me sick. But now I know I don't have I've been doing the same Thursday night support group for 4 years. And now I don't have that. Like my recovery and what's kept me sober is in Utah. And I'm here with 0 friends. I don't know anybody. I don't even know where to go to a meeting if I want to. Well, actually, that's not true. I just have to ask my dad. And he's asking me every day, have you gone to a meeting? Have you made any friends yet? And I'm like, oh, stop it. That's why I don't go. But it's definitely different to be somewhere where I'm not doing this move here is a complete change of everything, everything. And I wanted that. Like I moved here to start over as like this beautiful thing of 5 years. Let's recreate Rachael, who's 42, change careers, which I'll probably be really easy to change careers because there is no homeless services here. You have to go like into the heart of the ghettos to do that. And I'm like 2 hours away from that. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, it's going to be interesting.
You're going to save the turtles, right?
Well,
I mean, yeah.
But that's only as a volunteer. So, and which is fine. Maybe I'll become a marine biologist. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. Like this whole experience, for those of you guys, most of you guys don't know, Tiffany knows, I decided about 6 weeks ago to kind of just up and move to New York. And me and my 2 kids are here. My parents sold their house, like the housing boom market. They literally put their house up and it was sold in 11 days. So, and then it was a cash offer, which I probably shouldn't say on air. But that meant the closing date was a lot sooner than your typical closing. And we were out of the house in 2 weeks and here 2 weeks later.
Wow.
And so everything happened really, really fast. And I'm here on my total faith in God. Like I said, God, if this is the right thing to do, let it happen. And it did. So I'm scared to be here. Like I kind of just said before, like I know my recovery in Utah like it got me 5 years, and I have them, and I've had all these other great organizations that I worked with, and I've been of service, and I've had my own Thursday meeting for the last 4 years that I faithfully attended every week. And here it's like everything I've known is gone. And I have this really awesome opportunity where I get to become this version of Rachael. And so it's cool and it's exciting. And I'm like a little scared, like, what do I do? How do I do it? Oh, hide, don't leave the house. No, wait, you got to get out there. I mean, it's wild. I'm here. There's no turning back.
You know, I tip my hat off to you, Rachael, because, you know, you had your comfort blanket here in Utah. You've thrown that comfort blanket away, and you're taking a big chance on a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I tip my hat off to you by listening to your spirit, you know, or your higher power, however you like to look at it, and going, I'm going to make a new chapter. And am I scared shitless? Yeah, maybe I am, but this is where I'm supposed to go. Because I know for a lot of people, well, maybe I don't, I guess I can't say I don't know, but it would be hard. It would be really hard. Now I've packed up and moved, you know, right out of high school. I went to Colorado, and then from Colorado, I went to Phoenix, and I was back to Salt Lake. And then I ended up going to Kentucky. I was leaving things that I knew as well, but it's not like what you have gone through, you know, and then also being able to build a support group that you had, to where when you do have those bad days, you've got that support group that you can go to. I mean, now, I mean, yes, you have family, but you have the beach. But yeah, throwing away, what is it, the whoopee that Linus had in the Peanuts? I think it was Linus the whoopee. You know, you threw your whoopee away. And I mean, my daughter, I mean, she had a teddy bear that she called Teddy. And I mean, that Teddy went everywhere with her. And if she didn't have it, man, life was hell for her mom and I. I mean, we had to make sure that Teddy was there. So I would think it would be almost like the same thing for you.
It's wild. So I have been really blessed over the last couple of years. I would say I started trying to help people in 2015. And then I had a 9-month bender in between there. And so I've been trying to help people I've been helping for a long time. And I went from a place where if I wanted to work tomorrow, there's 7 people who are like, dude, why haven't you started working for me yet? You know, like I had jobs and opportunities, and so many people who were like, yes, come make this your home. And I took my 2 kids who are teenagers, right? And said, all right, let's go live in this 2-bedroom house. And I have $1,500 to my name. And it's like, I got to figure something out. And so when I left my complete blanket and that's kind of why I wanted to leave, because I felt like I'm just kind of stuck here and I'm comfortable and I'm not growing. And I was like, I got to go get out of my comfort zone and experience life. And I felt like in Utah, all I was ever going to do was and I could have stayed there and done things, but it's a lot easier to jump out of your comfort zone when you're in a new place.
It's
where
brave.
You don't know.
Let's just call it out. It's so brave.
Yeah.
So brave.
I have no idea how I'm going to support my kids tomorrow. I mean, I know how we're going to get food right now, but I have to work. And so it's like, and what I know how to do isn't available here. And I kind of knew that was going to happen. And I thought, this is the only midlife crisis, you guys. Don't move out of state when you're having midlife crisis and do what I did. I don't recommend it yet. Check with me in a year. In a year from now, I'll let you know. But I'm excited about it. Like, it's scary. I have to change my career unless I figure something else out. But I have to figure out now, who's Rachael? What are you? How are you going to support you and your family? Like, my comfort zone is completely gone, and I've had it and I've used it to my full advantage to where I stopped growing. And I saw that and I was like, all right, dude, just do it. And I did. Like, it's wild.
But you have still tapped into many, like you made that post, I don't know, a couple weeks ago saying, hey, does anyone, I can't remember exactly what it said, but I'm moving. I'm going to need extra support. Can anybody, offer me any support? You've asked me to meet with you. By the way, I have a whole bunch of different ideas or suggestions we're reading because I'm so excited for you.
Yeah.
But like you tapped into, even though you left the state, right? Like you're still involved in stuff here. And I think that is just really important. For everybody to know if they're like especially in recovery, like you have to have this confidence first, right? Which I see in you today. And then be brave, make this bold, because sometimes you outgrow things that are great, right? Because BAM was and still is, it's incredible and it's running great since you've left. I've seen, they're having the big camp out this weekend with a lot of people serving the community. And so it was such a great organization and that you founded, but you, like you said, you felt stuck. So sometimes we outgrow incredible things and we need to make a brave decision to keep growing, which is exactly what you did, Rachael. And then by doing that, you still have this safety net, maybe not the blankie, but you still have some kind of maybe little corner of the blankie, whatever it's called, right? That you like reaching out like on social media, meeting with me or whoever to stay connected. And like you're not just moving there in free one going, okay, maybe I'll find an AA meeting, which you just stated, 12 steps hasn't, you haven't been a part of 12 steps before. You'd still go, but that's not, something that you've done in the past. So, but you're still keeping a part of something to help you succeed as you're being brave in this move. And I just think that's a great example that you're leading for people. Because it's sometimes when we feel stuck in something great, then we stay stuck because we don't want to leave that, right?
Oh, yeah.
In
It's
jobs,
comfort,
relationships,
right?
anything. Yeah. And so it's just really incredible to see you as a woman in recovery to make this change, and save the trolls and whatever else you're going to do. And I'm grateful that I get to at least have some suggestions thrown at you because I do. I'm like, I'm living through you in New York.
She's knitting a new whoopee, right? She's knitting a new whoopee.
Yeah. Well, and it's really cool. Like, I love that Tiffany's on here because Tiffany and I know each other at the very bottom. I mean, we probably had 3 rock bottoms together. And I remember my last time, Tiffany was like my go-to. And I love Tiffany because I knew Tiffany wasn't going to hurt me. And today, as women, right, I know today still Tiffany's not going to hurt me. And to be able to have this, I have chills.
Me too.
We've gone through awful experiences. And because we went through them, it makes us be able to be who we are today. And like to know that Tiffany I'm sober because of Tiffany. Her and I were running ridiculously out there, just awful, awful, awful. I don't have to get into it. It's just awful. Like those stories of people's bad awfuls, that was our life. And I got out of jail and I had every single intention to get better. And my first phone call was to Tiffany. And she's like, Rachie, I did it. I'm sober. I'm cold turkey sober 2 weeks. I'm feeling better. Like, you could do this with me. And I had hoped for the very first time, like if Tiffany did it, who's like my person, I could do it. And then my situation sucked and I didn't last very long and I went back to jail. And then maybe 6 weeks later, I got out of jail and Tiffany was still sober. And it was like, holy cow, I could do it. And then we went to this funny girls' night out party, which was so funny. And we went to recovery days. And I started a different group and we just started doing all this stuff together. And we got sober together. So we went from crying, trying to get out of the game and like, why is all this bad stuff happening to me, to I get to inspire and help other people. Like, I believe, and I'll probably go to my grave believing this, if Tiffany didn't get sober that weekend, I wouldn't be sober today. And that was really hard. And we kept good boundaries. Like, we did good things together, and anything sober and fun we did. And we kind of both did our own thing at the same time, but we're both like 5 years in recovery today. And our recovery looks totally different. But she is one of the strongest women I know. And for her to be able to continue to teach and inspire because we weren't teaching anybody anything good back then. You know, it was awful. And now we have kids who love us and kids who want to be with us, and ex-husbands who can stand to talk to us and look at us. And, you know, my family.
Sometimes.
Yes, listen, it still depends on the day, I know. But like this week, my kid's dad and we finally co-parent nicely. Like, I'm not worried about him calling the cops or stealing my wallet so I can't do drugs, or telling me he's bringing the kids over and he's not showing up. Like, I moved across the country and he was like, okay, you know, that's the right thing to do. And I went from 0 custody to I took my children across the country, and he'll be here eventually, I'm sure, someday too. But like, I love how we get to do this together. Like Tiffany, she already knows, like, I'm sober because she got sober. If she didn't, we'd both probably be dead.
You know, and it goes to show that we need that support group, even if it is just one person, right?
Yep.
We had a gal on our show a couple of weeks ago, and her husband was supposed to be there, and her husband is a first responder, and there was a really bad accident on the highway that he got called out to. But they're going to come back on the show here in another 2 weeks. But they both became addicts together, and when they decided, they actually pulled their families together all at once. And they said, this is what's going on. And if we're going to do this, we're going to do it together. And this young lady's father called all over the place to find a recovery center that would take both of them, because they says, we won't do it separately. We will do it together. And I guess it's hard to find a recovery center that'll take a husband and a wife or a couple.
Yeah.
And she said, look, if we got in it together, we're getting out of it together. And she even said, I doubt my husband and I would be clean today if we had to do it apart. And I thought that was really, really cool for her to say that, because a lot of times I hear the story of, okay, I'm ready, but the other person's not. And if they stick around to still try to keep that relationship, they end up falling right back into that same pattern. And then they end up separating. You know, so I thought that was really cool that you said, you know, Tiffany got clean and you had your little bout, and then you come back out and she's still clean. We all need that support, you know.
Yeah.
And it's very, very helpful to have somebody, and you said it, you had somebody that you could trust. You knew that Tiffany was not going to leave you to stray or lead you down a negative path. So I think that's really, really cool, and very important that our listeners understand that, because we all need that support. Even us on the other side, you know, we need that support.
Yeah. I want to add, well, first off, thank you, Rachel, I love our story, and even all the dark times, and especially the after times. Right. Yeah. So like getting sober, right? When I first got sober, it was lonely. And so when I had that conversation with Rachel, I was like begging her to get sober, and then she gets sober. So we're both on this recovery journey together. And so I hear what Rachel's saying, that I helped her get sober, but she helped me just as much as return, like you were saying, this support. I would like the listeners to know that there has to, you know, like for us at least, and I've seen it for friendships or maybe even relationships, there has to be boundaries, right? And so like Rachel was saying, we stuck to recovery, healthy things. Like, I don't even think I went to your house for a long time. I think I came and picked you up one time.
Yeah.
But like not in their house. She didn't come to my house. Like we like went to recovery positive things, and we supported each other that way until we could get healthier, you know what I mean? And so, cause we were so new into recovery, I was like 2 months, we're 2 months exact to the date.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Mine's May 30th. Hers is July 30th. So it's really cool. So,
that is cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so anything, well, you know, in any relationship, there has to be boundaries, but the boundaries, and I'm just so impressed with, myself and Rachel of how good that we held those boundaries together, when we got sober, because it was lonely. Right. we didn't have access to everything that we do now. And so including car, kids, right? Friendships. And so a lot of nights I know I found myself just sitting there going, what am I doing? What am I doing? Right. And then I just can't wait for the next recovery event that I can go with Rachael. And so just supporting each other that way with keeping boundaries, I think is very important, because here we are 5 years later. And I do want to add, like, and I said this at your going away party, when you, I'm so glad, because when I was going through my phone trying to find somebody to call from my past, because I was so lonely, right? Rocking myself back and forth going, I'm so bored. And Rachael, for some reason, I thought I called you. Maybe I called you, need to answer. I don't know. You think that you called me. It doesn't matter.
No, I think you called me. Okay. You called me for sure.
Okay. But I was going through my phone numbers going, which person should I pick? Which person should I pick? Right? Like, who can I call? And I ended up picking Rachael. And I said this at her going away party. I'm so glad that I picked her, because when I say that she has helped so many people, she is service queen, right? Like, I love service and I will dig into service, but this girl, like, I'm so glad that you're taking a shift in life, because that's exactly what you did 24/7 here with service. Call Rachael. Rachael can hook you up with this research, whatever. Like, and so, like, just by me getting sober, then you joining me, and now all of the people, right, that just on social media or even at your going away party. I mean, we were there for hours, people crying and telling her thank you, and this deep, deep connection that she's made with each individual, helping them get into sober living treatment, or just even a hot meal or whatever. Just shows your heart, Rachael. And I'm just so glad that we're both here today. And I'm just glad that you joined me.
Yeah, dude, it's just beautiful. And I'll just say this, like, everybody needs, when you're active in your addiction and you have hit rock bottom after rock bottom and had trauma after trauma of all these awful things happening, you start living in a hopeless world, right? Oh, I'm going to cry saying it. And remember when I used to do?
Yes. You know what? You haven't done that for a couple years. Holy cow.
And you start to become completely hopeless, right? Rape after, your best friend robbed you as soon as you fell asleep, to, doing whatever you got to do to get your drugs, where you just live in this dark world. And Tiffany gave me that hope, like your little yellow sunshiny necklace just makes me think right now of the hope. Like, you have got to find, to get sober, one little tiny piece of hope, because you don't have any left. Where we were, there was no more hope, and for Tiffany to and I know that her and I have done this for a lot of people now, which is really awesome, because if somebody would have told me a year before, let's get sober, it's like, I'm not done yet, dude. I'm not done. I got a lot more trauma that needs to happen, which is awful, because it was already bad. I wouldn't have done it, but I had to lose every ounce of hope to have that little tiny piece of hope and trust that maybe I could do it. And if she did it, then I could do it. And it became this thing where we're both now doing some really great, wonderful things and loving life. And it's so scary out there. Like, we do a lot of stuff helping people. And like, the thought of me with a meth pipe to my mouth or a piece of bath salt on foil is so gross. Like, I don't mean it's just like the thought of doing those things. I'm like, I can't believe I was living my life for that. But what was I living for besides, and all these people that we help and going into homeless city, 10 cities, or, going into different places and doing stuff, or just talking to people. It's just like, I can't believe for years that was the life I was running to, and it's hard, but I'm just like, everybody has to find, and your wife had to find it too, I'm sure, one little piece of hope that could give you that little time, like a mustard seed, right? Of our faith, to figure out, wait, maybe it is seed.
Yeah.
You said mustard seed.
You don't do anything little. And it was like, I remember trying for years. I was really lucky to when I had, maybe not lucky, I had a good mindset, right? I got pregnant with my first child and I quit using drugs. Like my morning sickness was awful because I was withdrawing from a lot of drugs and morning sickness at the same time. And I got I was fortunate enough to have a good mindset where I wanted my babies to be healthy. And I had 2 kids back to back right after each other. They're 18 months apart to the day. And so that was my first bout of recovery. And it was like, okay, I breastfed my kids till the latest possible so I could stay sober. It was like, as long as I'm breastfeeding, then I can't do drugs or get drunk, because then it'll give it to the babies.
Yeah.
But then I started to learn I had nothing to live hopeful for, like after that, it was like, okay, now how am I going to do this on my own? And I didn't. Then I started drinking, then I started drugging, then the old people started hanging out with, and I forget what my purpose was, but it was about, I had a lot of different attempts to get sober, and I did good then. Then I would have 6 months here, I'd have 10 months there. I always cheated though. Like I was always taking a pill or sneaking a drink or whatever. Like I have to work a program of abstinence because I overdo everything. If I have a drink, I want 7 right off the bat. Like I do everything to the extreme. And so I had to learn all these different fails of recovery until this one, which finally worked, I guess. I had a reason to talk about that and I lost it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was that
hope.
Yeah, the hope.
Mhm.
Yeah, something that you have to have the hope. So we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to wrap this thing up because we've got to respect Tiffany's time, and I know she's got to go here pretty soon. So guys, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Good morning, this is Leticia with Computer Hospital. We are your computer repair experts for both PC and Mac. We are your community resource for all of your computer repair needs. What makes us different is that we want to fix your computer. We also do free diagnostics. We charge a flat rate labor, which means that you won't pay by the hour. All of our computer repair is done in-house with a fast turnaround time, and same-day service is also available. Feel free to stop by anytime without an appointment. We're located in Sandy at 8721 South State Street. Again, that's 8721 South State Street, or call us at 801-987-3993. Again, that's 801-987-3993. This is Leticia with Computer Hospital, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello there, this is Brad Neufeld with the Resilience Talk Network, and I would like to introduce to you Taffytown, one of our newest sponsors. Let me introduce you to Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek from Taffytown. We're proud sponsors of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Taffytown is a family-owned and operated business still operating in the Salt Lake City area for over 100 years. We manufacture some of America's best saltwater taffy.
What makes Taffytown stand out from all of the others?
We have a unique recipe, a whipped-style recipe that incorporates egg whites, evaporated milk, real sea salt. It's a unique product that is flavorful, melts in your mouth, and the best part is we probably have a flavor for anyone's liking, a flavor for any reason, for any season. We have unique flavors like chicken and waffles, maple bacon, frosted cupcake. New this year was a pineapple ghost pepper flavor.
That's awesome. Where can people find out more about Taffytown and all of its products?
You can check all of this stuff out. All of our products are available for sale on taffytown.com. We ship for free from our website, so all of our pricing on there is shipping included. Oftentimes we offer special promotions and discounts to our loyal customers, so do be sure to sign up for an account. And we look forward to seeing what we can do to make you smile with our taffy.
Where are you located?
We are currently located at 9813 South Prosperity Road in West Jordan, Utah, just at the foothills of the Copper Canyon Mine.
Derek, taffy has always been a great gift to give. What are some of the creative ways Taffy Town can help say thank you to others?
Yeah, if you're looking for gift ideas, whether to say thank you to friends or family, or maybe to your clients after such a difficult or successful year that you've had, you could look no further than to get a gift idea from taffytown.com. We offer prepackaged gift boxes that say that it's saltwater taffy from the city of the Great Salt Lake, and it tells a little bit about the history of our community and making candy for so long. You can also do customized gifts to pick out just the right flavors or colors of candy for that special someone, and deliver even a personalized message in that box to them. So please feel free to check out taffytown.com for any gift ideas this season.
Thank you so much, Derek. Please visit taffytown.com. That's taffytown.com to find out more about the products and services that Taffy Town offers. You won't be disappointed.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Other Side of Addiction. We are here with our special guest, Rachael. Pioltini. I got it. Yeah, I got it. That's how I got it written down. Yeah. Anyway, Rachael, oh my gosh, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it with Tiffany and I. And yeah, we're just so grateful to have you. And I'm glad that you and I were able to connect. And again, I apologize for our last mishap. It was actually my fault, not yours. I'm the one that messed up on the scheduling. But tell us quickly a little bit more about BAM, because that's here in Utah. And I do have it written down here, BAM Campout, July 8th through the 10th. It's written down here on my notes. But and this event will be over with, of course, by the time this airs. But tell us a little bit more about BAM, and then share something with our audience, just something like a word of wisdom or something for us.
Yeah. So really quickly, BAM is a nonprofit organization that we created a couple years. I think it's almost on its third year now. It's called Beyond Addiction Mosaic. And Beyond Addiction is what I kind of wanted it to be called. But then I threw in the word mosaic, because the mosaic, which is, it's kind of a weird name, but the reason behind it is why. A mosaic is a beautiful piece of art. It's a bunch of broken glass that when you put it together, it creates a beautiful, like a picture, like your mosaic tiles on your wall or whatever. And that's what I think us people in recovery are. We're a whole bunch of broken pieces, and us people being the pieces. And when we find recovery, we become this really beautiful big community of people. And so I created this group with the primary purpose of being of service and helping what is it called? I'm trying to call it a slogan and it's not, but it's bringing resources to life beyond addiction. So what do you do when you're trying to get better, like Tiffany and I were? How do we get there? And so we help people find ways to get into recovery. And then after you find recovery, like when you get out of treatment, when you get out of prison, what do you do? So we've built this community to create events and service opportunities to help people. So this weekend, which I can't believe I'm not there for, it is like so awful. And I'm grateful. I was going to buy a ticket to go, but then I had a guy who needed to go to treatment. And I was like, oh, me go to the BAM camp out or buy him a ticket to go to treatment. So I'm not there because somebody else's life was more important. And I'm grateful that that happened. But we do a camp out. This is our second one. We'll do it for, our whole thing is building community, building connection. How do we, when you get sober, what do you do? If you don't go to AA meetings, how do you build community? So we created a safe space for people to go where we accept all pathways to recovery to build community and connection. So they're going this weekend to Rockport, and they're going to have meditation and fun on the water and camping and breakfast and firesides and meetings and all this great stuff. And I'm going to sit here hot in my house and walk to the beach alone, but it'll be great.
Wow, that's really cool.
For me.
What I love about BAM though, it's consistently every month, right? Well, this is the second annual camp out, but every month since you've started this organization has held weekly meetings, right? So I guess that's not monthly, but weekly meetings, either virtually or in person, either at a local Denny's or in at a park. I think right now it's held at Fitz Park in Salt Lake, and then also a monthly outreach where any volunteer can go and either get community service or just be of service and make sandwiches and sack lunches for our unsheltered population. And then you do something fun too, which I love it. Like we've been to movies together, not just her and I mean, but the whole community, and anybody's invited. Like she said, it's all pathways. So it doesn't matter how anybody recovers. Your recoveries can look totally different. And you can still come together, have fun, serve the community, support each other at these meetings, and talk however you want to talk, right? Like our languages are different, and that's okay, right? How we describe ourselves, and that's okay. We can still support each other.
That's cool.
And so I really like that. And I just want to add, when you were younger, you said the misfits, right? Like the misfits got you in trouble. And I would like to say, like now, since in recovery, you kind of have brought the misfits in a different light and shedding different, light into this world. And I think it's amazing, Rachel, because I always recommend BAM, and the courtrooms are talking about BAM. Like it's a huge thing in 3 years. She's like, that's her really and her committee and the volunteers have really shown up, and
congrats, big congrats. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's weird to be here, and then I know you have to go, but like I've created this comfort, right? And now I'm here, and it's like I'm a nobody. Like I walk into a store, and it's like if somebody wanted help, and I saw someone outside who needed help, I wouldn't even know where to send somebody. Like I'm just sending people to Utah. We sent 2 people to Utah this week because I don't know anything about out here. And it's beautiful, but that's what we are. We're just a bunch of misfits, just creating something beautiful. And I love that I've had that opportunity. I'm sure I'll do something with it here. I don't know what will happen next, but it's definitely not over. And I'm grateful we have people that support us, and we'll keep it going.
Well, look where it could go, because wasn't Jesus following mostly misfits?
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Look where that went.
My favorite thing. Jesus always helped the people. He didn't take them home. He went home after, and I had to learn that. Jesus helped all the people, but then he went home alone to his family and friends. But thank you guys so much for giving me the opportunity to come on here. Anytime with Tiffany and you, Al, is good time. And I'm just, what a beautiful, this is beautiful. Like I love the different aspect of you as the husband and us here as the people. And there's so much beautiful things that this world has to offer. And I'm grateful for this opportunity just to share little pieces of my story to hopefully bring hope to somebody else.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to have you really on this show. And I'm glad you and I connected. I think we connected on Facebook, and we got in contact with each other and was able to make this happen. So, it takes a lot. It takes, some of our guests have come on our show and shared for the very, very first time, and to have the strength to be vulnerable, to share a time of your life that you're not proud of. It's got to be a bitch. We'll just put it that way. It's got to be tough, and to be able to come out and do that because it's helping other people. So thank you for everything that you've done. And, I'll say thank you to Tiffany too. She works with my wife, and I'm just very grateful. I'm getting emotional. Very grateful for the work that you do with my wife. I know it's helping her, and I know she still has a long battle, still a lot of rocks to cross and overcome to get to the top of the mountain. And I'm doing the same exact thing, but thank you for the both of you for all the work that you're doing and helping the community and helping so many other people. So with that, we want to say thank you to all our sponsors, all our listeners. A lot of this wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for you guys. Thank you to Resilience Talk Network and Brad Newfield for opening up his arms and believing in this podcast and being willing to open up a studio so we can do this. So guys, we're going to end it as we do at the end of every show. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing. Recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.